all right, can we stop with the streaking? It's getting ridiculous. It's getting out of hand. I'm not a fan. I don't even get what enjoyment they get out of it at this point.
I
But a
thought it
guy
was a
yet
protester.
again,
Was it
there
not
is a protester? Yeah, but I lump it all together.
Okay.
The protesters, the streakers, the fans run on the field. Can we just put an end to all of it? I'm done. I'm over.
Well, I'm okay with it if it always leads to a football player getting to tackle it. I honestly think like the rule should be there is no security when a streaker happens. It is, hey, each team sends out their starting defense. First one is to tackle him gets like a $25,000 bonus. The NFL signing bonus, like the fine that dude then has to pay. Like should go straight to the player, like signing bonus. Who
probably
could take
like
the
a
guy
charity
down?
of their choice or something.
Yeah,
like
you know what I mean. Like think about how many people wouldn't do it if they knew that they ran the field. Like Aaron Donald is incentivized to tackle me.
Right. Yeah, that's
you
true.
Know what I mean?
That's true. Give them extra incentive. Yeah. But Bobby Wagner is not a guy that you want to get shouldered.
Absolutely not.
And
There's a great in the great sports podcast. Part of my take, Barstool Big Cat has. I think it's one of the smartest takes of all time. That every player in every sport should be allowed. He does it mainly for basketball because basketball players have to deal with a lot of like they're right on the court, people saying shit in their ears all the time. Like they should be allowed to once a year, whenever they want, call out a fan, and that fan has to come to the court and they have to fight. Like they physically have to fight. Like think about how less shit talking people would do to like a Draymond Green or someone if all of a sudden they were like, middle of the game gets to stop. Nope, I'm using my one. Come on down here. I'm going to beat the living hell out of you.
What does the fan get if they, the fan doesn't get a win there unless they somehow win.
No, but that's the point. Maybe if they can knock out Draymond Green, that you're a legend on the internet forever. Yeah, right, so you have the opportunity. But I think it's a brilliant idea that they should literally consider because think about how much less shit people would talk.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Anyone who's sitting there shit talking LeBron James and then he gets like, nope, come on down. Let's go. And like, all right, you get to fight him now.
My biggest question with all of this is I've been to a lot of these games, not NFL, but I've been to cover a lot of like college games and big events. The security is pretty much about 10 to 15 feet apart throughout the entire sideline. How do these guys get through? Like, their whole job is watching the stadium.
These are fat dudes, though. These are fat. These are fat older dudes. These are not. Let's be honest about the security. They
should get to ride around in a Segway or something like that. Yeah, Imagine them just chasing after a guy in a Segway at the 50.
I'm a type of person who, if I applied for a job as security at the NFL stadium, they look at me like, all right, 6'5", big guy, like you'd be great. All of a sudden, some dude, 5'11", who's like
gets by you
in shape, they could easily blow by me. I mean, I had no chance. You know what I mean? So like, I think that has to do a lot of it. You know what I mean? These guys are not athletes.
And it's not a great job, I wouldn't think. I would not want to be looking at the stands instead of what's going on the field.
It's a bummer.
Entire game. All right, well, the craziest football season in recent memory for me continues here. I tweeted that thing out that someone, I think it was Kyle Yates, said, "Is this the weirdest fantasy football season ever? Or is it just me?" I agree with that, but I also agree that it's just the one of the weirder football seasons to start as well. The great players aren't being dominant. At least, a lot of them aren't. We're not seeing the Jonathan Taylor of old. We've only seen bits and pieces of Derrick Henry. It's just there's a lot of people that are seemingly not playing up to the, what we expected them to be playing at. So very interesting start to the year nonetheless. And we only have one undefeated team, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are the lone 4-0 team at this point of the season. So that's, interesting point of note. But as we always do here on the Football Lounge during the NFL season, we will recap all of the games from this past week. So week 4, here we go. Dolphins at Bengals, Cincinnati, 27-15. Obviously, a lot of discussion out of this game is Tua Tagovailoa, 4 days removed from clearly getting a concussion on Sunday, despite them calling it a back injury. Goes back out there, gets slammed on his head. It looked awful. He did the whole fencing thing with his arms. It was really scary. Got a concussion again. He's out of the game. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, played fairly well, but the Bengals are able to hang on and kind of dominate that fourth quarter there. 13 fourth quarter points, and they go on to win it 27-15, as I mentioned. So your thoughts on this one? Obviously, a lot of talk about the Tua concussion. They have fired the one guy that let him go back into the game Sunday. I think more heads are going to roll in this one.
You know what? I mean, I think there's a lot that's already been said. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I will just say this. It was, to me, pretty obvious against Buffalo he had a concussion. And we kind of laugh about it in the days after, because you're like, I think we talked about on the show, like, oh, it's a back injury. It's not a back injury. It was clearly a concussion. That was a failure. And I understand that, by their standards, he passed any sort of protocols. Well, if what happened to Tua in the Buffalo game allowed him to pass protocols, then clearly the protocols, to me, aren't good enough. Like that's and there needs to be, again, I feel this way. I've said it on my morning show with my co-host a bunch. Too many times, big corporations and things like this, they don't have enough common sense people. Like, where is just the NFL needs to have someone in the room who's just an average guy watching games. I volunteer as tribute. I can watch the game and be like, oh yeah, no, dude, that guy's out of, like, he needs to be out at least 2 weeks. Like, you got to be smart about this. You're going to get roasted on Twitter and destroyed because you should not let that guy back in the game. So again, if Tua had not suffered the hit against Buffalo, I also think the hit he took in the sack, not an illegal hit, but the way he was thrown to the ground and his head slamming first in Cincinnati, it to me, it's the type of hit that would have led to a concussion anyway. So yeah, concussions are part of the game. We know they're part of the game. What the NFL is trying to get out and get rid of is the guy gets concussions multiple weeks in a row. That clearly happened to Tua. It's a failure. I understand the players saying, hey, I passed, I want to play. The whole rule is to protect the players from themselves, so it's disappointing. The Miami's going to be fine, though. Tua can rest for 2-3 weeks. I mean, their schedule coming up is really easy. They're already ahead of schedule, being 3-1. Miami is in a really great space. Tua definitely should take the time, take this week off, and then see where he's at after this upcoming week, and make the determination from there. Cincinnati, on the other hand, I also think they're in a great spot. It was an important win for Cincinnati. People are freaking out because they're not world beaters. I am too. I mean, remember, I picked them to be a 14-win team and second in the AFC. Doesn't look like they're going to be that type of team. They're not going to explode. But this is a Bengals team that, remember, last year lost to the Bears at home, like week 3 or 4. Like, they started slow. This is a team that way overperformed expectations last year. Things will take time to gel. This Bengals team looks like it's starting to become one of those teams, though, that by December, January, absolutely will be right in it, and you don't want to play them. They have a ton of offensive weapons. The offensive line only gave up 1 sack to Miami. That's the positives.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Bengals are going to be perfectly fine moving forward. Like, they're going to be a force. They're going to be in the conversation. I wasn't ready to rule them out after their really slow start, and I think we're kind of on the same page there. That was still a good win despite Tua not being there. It's a good Dolphins club, and the Bengals were able to kind of separate, and to get a 12-point win against the Dolphins either way, I consider that a win for them. I expected Miami to win this game, and the Bengals, I should say, came in and really played pretty well. I mean, they scored in each of the first 2 quarters a touchdown, and then put up 13 in the fourth quarter. Those are the type of things you need to do to pull away and win games. Joe Burrow looked perfectly fine, and as you mentioned, kept him clean for the most part. The Bears on the road at the Giants, the New York Football Giants, get a 20-12 win. I mean, man, it's weird that the Bears are 2-2. It's like they seem like they feel like an 0-4 team, but they're 2-2. I mean, it's not It's not disastrous, but it feels disastrous. I don't know what more to say about it. Saquon Barkley, meanwhile, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he's
back.
great.
He's back to the old Saquon, but
They're using
they
him
just
the
can't
right
get
way.
guys involved, man.
They're
On
using Saquon the right way. Talking about the Giants, absolutely. I think the Giants, they're scarier than I thought they would be, and mainly because they are literally Brian Daboll's running a lot of that Buffalo offense, only now he's got a legit top 5 running back who's running motivated as heck. And he doesn't care about the health and safety of his quarterbacks. I mean, Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor comes in, they run right away. He gets injured. And I don't mean that in the sense that they're trying to get Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor injured, but clearly Buffalo knows these guys are, the Giants know these guys aren't their quarterbacks of the future. And right now, in order for them to win games, and it seems like Brian Daboll is smart. He knows he doesn't have the quarterback of his future, but what he's trying to show is like, hey, we're going to build a culture. We're going to win games. And so we're going to run you. We're going to run you. And what you do well is run the ball. I mean, Daniel Jones struggled moving the ball passing, but they ran RPOs. They ran some options. They just got him on the edge. The Bears did not put a spy on Daniel Jones' bad defense. Bears defense played a lot better in the second half, gave them chances to win. So far, what I've been impressed about with my Bears is they do make second half adjustments. In every single game so far this year, they have. And it's helped them win the 2 games they've won. And in the 2 games they've lost, their defense has shown up in the second half to play better. Even in that Packers game, there was a couple of those moments where this, like I said it after the 2 weeks ago, where like, hey, this Bears team 2-3 years ago and even last year would have embarrassed us. It would have gone from 24 points to 48 points, and they didn't let that happen. So there's positives there. Eberflus, there are definitely some positives. I just feel the problem right now, though, is offensively, there's nothing simple. Everything has to be very movement and quick craziness. And the problem right now is Justin Fields is not seeing the field because he knows, and it's like they're building in. It's almost like they're scaring him, saying like, you're not going to have enough time. You're not going to have enough time. So the moments where he has enough time, it's like he makes bad decisions because he's like, I got to get this out. He doesn't realize he has enough time in the pocket. And then the other times is that he literally has no time and he's getting smoked. He's getting sacked way too much. But you got to be a little critical on Justin Fields right now in the sense that you're not completing 50% of your balls against the Giants. I mean, that's bad. You're not throwing for 200 yards. That's bad. I mean, he's on historic trends right now for starting quarterbacks, like all-time season lows. So Getsy and the offensive staff have got to find a way to be more explosive and find a way to use the weapons you have. Get Cole Kmet more involved, get Mooney, and just force feed them. Mooney's the only one getting separation. Cole Kmet in some of the play action passing games and underneath stuff is getting open. So just force feed it and then run the ball as best you can when you can, but also don't make stupid decisions on that. Like 3rd and short, they ran the ball because, hey, we're the Bears. We run the ball with Khalil Herbert against a 9-man box. Like, I mean, don't be stupid. Like, fake it and have your quarterback run and pick up the first down. Use Justin Fields running a little bit more. And then I would say, Dan, I'm so sick of, like, it's predictable. I was texting my little brother during the game. I'm like, watch. I guarantee I know how this series is going to be. They start off with a pass. Justin Fields gets pressured. It's incomplete. It was like second quarter. It was like early in the second quarter. Next thing that happens, they're going to run on 2nd and long because now we got to run the ball, and they get stuffed. It's all of a sudden it's 3rd and 11, and then you pass it, it's incomplete. Like, you got to stop that. Like, it's got to stop. If you're going to run on first down. You're a good running team. See what you can do. Use your best running plays. Try to be creative off of it. Run with your quarterback. And then you need to throw the ball more. And you just need to let this kid throw interceptions. Stop protecting him. I'd rather see interceptions with chances being taken and running your full offense than this kind of mishmob only running, it seems like 20% of an offense. And it is really frustrating. It's maddening. The Bears, let's face it, through 4 games, it's pretty obvious with the naked eye. They do not have enough good players on offense. And defensively, they don't have a consistent enough pass rush to help their young corners and their young secondary, which I like. It's just too young right now with the ineffective pass rush. So the Bears need more good players. That's really what it is. You need two really great, more offensive linemen to add, and you need a Mike Evans type guy in his prime, where it's like, my guy's just better than your guy, and he can get open, and Fields can just feed him the rock, like Tom Brady did on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, Mooney is having his moments, but it's been few and far between. I feel like Mooney's an elite number 2 guy in this league. I don't know if he can be.
That's why he thrived with Allen Robinson last year.
Right?
It's because you're like, we gotta take out Allen Robinson. Mooney against the second corner in those routes, running the secondary routes, he's electric.
Yeah. I mean, he can get those deep routes, wide open. Especially on those second corners, as you mentioned. Yeah, I do feel like they're being a little bit too conservative with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
A little bit too much in their fears there. And for good reason, you understand it. But like you said, you got to start taking risks and opening things up for the kid, or else there's really not going to be much development that happens. It's just going to be slamming your head against the wall week after week.
Overall, I'll say this. As of right now, I mean, Justin Fields will start the season next year for the Bears. He is their quarterback next year as well. So I'm trying to be patient in that, and I'm trying to make sure I remind myself that this is the first year of a year that we knew should be rough. But the problem is, you see flashes where the defense plays really great, and you want to see growth from your young quarterback. So it's tough. It's going to be a long season for me and other Bears fans, because it's a lot of growing pains. And overall, again, my focus is keeping Justin Fields healthy and giving him opportunities to just keep learning, because he's going to be your starting quarterback again next year. Then after that, if by next year you add weapons and he's still not progressing, that's when the new regime could say, we didn't draft him, he's not our guy, but we gave him a chance, and now we move on. And as a fan, like, that's what you have to do in this situation. But give him a chance to at least throw the ball. I mean, he's going to set a record for like lowest amount of attempts and completions for a starting quarterback in a 16, 17 game season. Yeah. And it's the modern NFL. I mean, we're talking about, like, you just need to throw the ball. And so you got to figure it out.
Don't want to be in the record books in that column. That's for sure. Meanwhile, the Giants are, I wouldn't say like super legit, but the NFC East is ripe for the taking there. So the New York Giants in good position right now after a quarter of the football season. Speaking of historic quarterbacks, Kenny, my boy Kenny Pickett, getting in the game. First ever quarterback in NFL history to score 2 rushing touchdowns in his NFL debut.
And
also threw 3 picks, but
all his passes.
He completed. All of none of his passes touched the ground. There was one that did, but it didn't. It got called back from a penalty, so it didn't count as a pass attempt. But so yes, of the 13 pass attempts he was credited with, none of them touched the ground. 10 were completed, 3 were intercepted. This is kind of what we were talking about. I was very happy to see it happen.
I want to hear.
It was very clear from the onset that the offense was better with Kenny Pickett in there. And this is after, with an offense where I'm just going to say 2 picks, because the third one, Hail Mary, whatever. So an offense that threw 2 picks in the second half still managed to score 14 points, which was more than they had scored in 4 quarters of football. 6 points the entire first half from a Mitch Trubisky-led team. Kenny, what we've been saying all along, the anticipation was on full display. He's staring down rushes and throwing the ball in the middle of the field to open spots and getting and trusting his guys too. Those throws to Pickens were good throws, because he's like, I have a 6'5" guy on the perimeter. I'm going to throw a back shoulder, and if it's incomplete, it's incomplete, but I'm going to give him that chance. It's like Mitch, and it sucks because it would be so much easier if Mitch was an asshole. But he's such a good dude. Like, you root for the guy because he's a good dude and he's a good teammate. And so I wanted him to succeed this year. But it was clear after, a game and a half that he's just not seeing the field well. And there was the same problems he had in Chicago, right? I mean, when he's going off of pure instinct, he can make some magic happen. But that's not sustainable if you're not, like, consistently making good reads. And he just doesn't see the field well enough. Kenny does. Kenny sees the field well. He's gonna make rookie mistakes. I'm totally prepared for it. I am ready for it. The Steelers' season seems all but lost at this point.
Tough
It's super
schedule coming up.
disappointing. Yes, super disappointing to drop a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. I mean, they still should have absolutely won this game, but the defense does what seemingly the defense has been doing for quite some time, is just the one pivotal drive that it's needed. They let, a Zach Wilson carve them up on the way to a touchdown. But I was still encouraged by what I saw from Pittsburgh. I am now just excited to watch Kenny Pickett develop this year.
That's your
And
season.
I'm excited to see what the offense looks like with Pickens and Najee developing, the offensive line coalescing. That's what I'm looking forward to this season. The next stretch is brutal. They got Buffalo, Miami, Tampa, Philadelphia. It could easily go 0-4, be 1-7 going into their bye. I don't think it'll happen, but even if they go 1-3, you're 2-6. It looks bleak. Meanwhile, the Jets, look, Zach Wilson, I thought looked pretty good in the second half of this game.
He did. Rough first half.
It was a rough first half, but he came in clutch in the fourth quarter for them, and he flashed what the physical tools that we all knew that he had coming out, and he was able to avoid some sacks. So there were some good things to take away. I think if you're the Jets, you're super stoked about that win because it showed resolve, and you're 2-2. Like this is from where you were at last year. I think they've made some significant strides, and they probably feel good about getting Zach Wilson back and having him finish the way he did.
I would be. I mean, listen, I'm a Zach Wilson hater in the sense that I wouldn't have drafted him as where they did, and I don't think that he's going to have a long, successful NFL career. But this is the start of proving me wrong. A game-winning drive in the fourth quarter on the road. You got to love it. He had a chance, and he led. It was accurate, and he was sharp down the stretch. He's got a lively arm. For Zach Wilson, it will always be, can he just stay on the field long enough and be healthy long enough to do it? And can he either develop into a Drew Brees to protect his body? Because, right now his asset is his legs and moving, but that's also what's getting him injured. So Baker couldn't develop into Drew Brees. You know what I mean? Like for these undersized guys, that's what you have to figure out. Kyler Murray is trying to move less and develop that, because by your third, fourth year in the league, you're running around guys. Justin Fields will feel it by the end of this season, going to start next season. I want to run around less because I'm not Josh Allen. I'm not 6'6" and could take all these hits all the time. So you're going to have to develop those skills. That's the future for Zach Wilson. But right now, take the win. Feels good. It will be fun for Steelers fans now. It's just about Kenny Pickett. Mitch, his long career now as an NFL backup, and him and Teddy Bridgewater being the guys you absolutely want to back up your quarterback. He has cemented that. He will have a long career, make a lot of money. He's the next Chase Daniel, and that's no shame in being that from here on out.
Yeah, and you called that a while ago. When he left Chicago, you were like, that's gonna be likely his career, and I agree. There's no shame in that. Chase Daniel has made a lot of money in the NFL,
and Mitch will too. Mitch will too. He'll sign 2-3 year deals for $20-30 million to back up these young quarterbacks who are maybe injury prone, to be a voice for them. He'll have a long career. Whoever drafts Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, you should sign Mitch Trubisky. That's how this should go from here on out. Marcus Mariota, Mitch, and Bridgewater.
Hey, San Fran, if they end up getting rid of Jimmy G, bring him in to back up Trey Lance or something.
Absolutely.
Like that. He might actually fare well in that San Fran offense. Yeah, I agree. Real quick before we move on, did you agree with the swap? Do you think that they should have put Kenny in when they did?
No, I mean, I hate doing it at halftime. I mean, those are painful moves because it just feels like it did feel like then, you're not giving the kid the best chance for success.
It almost worked though,
It was
really the defense that blew it because they took the lead.
To me, the biggest thing was it peeled back the curtain of what was going on in Mike Tomlin's brain. Mike Tomlin, it showed you he doesn't have the patience for losing. Like Mike Tomlin wants to win games. And so that to me was what it is 2 weeks ago, I thought Mike Tomlin maybe would have been okay losing games, saying, you know what, I'm stable. My GM is stable. We have our quarterback. This is a growing pain season. If we lose, we lose. what you now realize is Mike Tomlin will do whatever he thinks is necessary to win games, and got to feel good about that if you're a Steelers fan to really have that confirmed. And who knows, maybe Kenny can have a renaissance of a year and spoil and win some games for the Steelers. We'll see.
That'd be wild. Kenneth Shane Pickett era begins in Pittsburgh. I'm here for it. Vikings go on the road at the Saints, and
London.
Andy Dalton and company almost beat the Minnesota Vikings. But Minnesota wins 28-25. I mean, the Saints, certainly aren't as bad as maybe we made them out to seem, but Chris Olave seems to be the real deal there, the rookie wide receiver for New Orleans. But the Vikings improved to 3-1. It's a situation, we'll talk about the Broncos later, where I kind of held Kevin O'Connell and Hackett in kind of the same vein, and was really like interested to see which one of them would pan out. It appears that like Kevin O'Connell is a much more like in line for a head coaching job in terms of the readiness for it than Nathaniel Hackett was. I like where the Vikings are headed right now. I mean, they're not blowing teams out. They have some flaws, but they are pulling out these wins and finding ways to get points when they need them. Fourth quarter, yet again, when it matters most. I mean, they go and do it. And Kirk is the kind of guy that can manage a team, right? And so at the end of the day, Saints fall to 1-3, Vikings 3-1, and they are now atop the NFC North. So what say you?
I say that, the Vikings got to feel good about getting the win. Listen, anytime we play these London games, I'm not going to be too critical. I mean, it's wild travel schedule. You have a lot of PR you're doing. Your schedule's completely thrown off. So I'm not going to be too critical of the Vikings in that way. Or the Saints. Like, whichever team finds a way to win in a London game, hey, good for you. You found the way to win. The Saints, I think they may right now offensively be moving the ball a little bit better with Andy Dalton. It's because Andy Dalton is closer to what Drew Brees was than Jameis Winston is.
Yeah. And he's not going to take the huge.
He's not going to take the risks. And they have such good weapons that that maybe Andy Dalton, playing another week or two while Jameis is out with the injured back, might not be the worst thing in the world for New Orleans. And for the Vikings, I still don't believe in the Vikings long term as far as a Super Bowl contender or we'll debut the Super Bowl plane here. They're not, spoiler, they're not a first class team. I mean, first class means I think you're capable of winning Super Bowl. And I think there's just too much proven film. The fact that Kirk Cousins cannot win a Super Bowl. I just don't think he can win a Super Bowl. I don't think he can win, honestly, big time playoff games. Regular season games, when no one's watching at noon, if that's when the Super Bowl was played, the Vikings would be Super Bowl champions. I don't want to spend too much time overthinking it. They're a really great team, great roster. They're going to win it looks like they're going to win a lot of games. And then I think they're in for playoff disappointment.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I mean, I could see them losing a wild card game if at best winning a wild card game and then losing in the divisional round. They have that makeup for sure.
Kirk, it's Kirk. I mean, the dude, he just shrinks in big moments. We've seen it happen. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's when people show you who they are, believe them type of deal. And that's all we've seen from him so far. The Browns go on the road and lose to the Falcons. So no one in the AFC North seems to want to pull away with the division at all.
No.
The Browns fall to 2-2. The Falcons improve to 2-2. 23-20, kind of a sloppy game here. Nick Chubb is the Cleveland Browns right now.
Yeah.
And until they get Deshaun Watson back, that's just what it's going to be. And even if you plan for him, he's still going to do well. So it's about, can you do the other things? And the Falcons were just able to do enough in this game to come away with the victory. I don't know what the identity of the Falcons is at all. We at least know what the Browns are.
Yeah.
The Falcons are weird to me. I don't really understand it. Mariota's, just kind of there. Cordero Patterson gets hurt.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
He is now going to be out for at least a month. Tyler Algier, the rookie, gets some running and ran pretty well. So maybe they have something there. But Kyle Pitts has just not been used at all this year. It's very mind-boggling. Meanwhile, the rookie Drake London has been, but this game nobody was getting much done. So minimal offense really from both teams. But I mean, the Falcons, that's a good win right there. It's at home against a more talented Cleveland team.
Yeah.
You'll take those wins when you can get them, I guess. They're not going to, but at the same time, you want that top pick next year, I would imagine.
As of right now, the Falcons are way scrappier than I thought they would be, and I'll give them credit. Arthur Smith, he, like I said before the season, it feels like they feel comfortable he's their coach. And I ought to be honest, I actually like the game plan. I know that it's like people want to force feed Kyle Pitts or whatever, but right now you have Marcus Mariota as quarterback, and you can run the ball effectively. And Cleveland wasn't stopping the run, so just run the ball. Like, he's showing, like, hey, I can figure out a game plan to win us games. Like, that's what you want out of your coach, as opposed to like just force feeding your good players right now. And so I got to be honest. I think the Falcons are a stock that I'd be buying stock in the Falcons right now. For the Browns, on the other side, this is what I predicted. They're going to have such an up and down season. It's going to be so up and down until they get Deshaun back. And even then, I think it's going to be up and down, because I think there's going to be a lot of emotion to that and a lot of uncertainty with how but he's going to respond after missing so much time. So the Browns are right on cue for me about being what I predicted. So for the Falcons, if you're a fan, you listen, you don't hate winning games, but I also, if I'm a Falcons fan, I'm getting a little concerned about, hey, that kid in Ohio State, you're going to have to probably be one or two in the draft to get that guy. And, the Seahawks, the Falcons are kind of overperforming, and maybe teams like the Texans are taking advantage of that.
It's why I wonder if they're going to try and go to Desmond Ridder at some point to see if they have something in the guy.
I don't know.
Because that'd be valuable to know going into next year. Do we really need a top 3 pick, or can we go with a 6th, 7th overall, have Desmond be our guy next year? I find it hard to believe that they're going to want to go with Mariota again next year. That would be
no, I don't think so.
A little odd. But I mean, they could.
They also, again, they could be in the market. They could just be one of those teams that their goal is not to draft a rookie, is to find a veteran and get someone in, trade for someone, do something like that. Who knows? But right now, overall, kind of like the Giants, I give them credit. Like, I think Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll are coaching really well. They're finding ways to win games and being way scrappier than I thought they would be.
The Browns, meanwhile, listen to this. Next 7 games: Chargers, Patriots, Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, Bucks. That's really bad. That is rough without Deshaun.
Yeah.
They'll probably win the Patriots game because they can beat them at the line of scrimmage. Maybe they pull away with a win in Miami or something. But that's a tough stretch right there.
It is.
So they could easily be 4-7, going.
Absolutely.
So interesting run there for the Browns. The Commanders fall to the Cowboys after a lot of offensive fireworks from the Commanders the first 2 weeks of the year. They have taken a precipitous fall down. Meanwhile, the Cowboys and Cooper Rush just keep on winning. It's quite impressive from Cooper Rush, and Jerry Jones loves the fact that there's going to be a quarterback controversy there in Dallas. The guy really loves him some QB controversy. It is interesting, though. Cooper Rush is running the offense fairly well. He's doing what needs to be done, getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. They're running the ball effectively, and the defense is just really good. So Cowboys win handily by 15, 25-10. Cowboys are now 3-1, Mark, and so it's them and the Giants right now in competition for second place, to Philly. And right now, the NFC East is looking way better than we thought at the beginning of the year. That's for sure. I don't think it will be this way come the end of the year, but right now, they are sporting some good clubs right now.
I believe it was announced that Cooper Rush is going to start again next week. The Dak's not ready to go.
I believe so
as well. So, I mean, this is going to be the fascinating storyline to watch. If Cooper Rush wins again, and you go to Dak and he goes on a 2-game losing streak to come back, it is going to be fascinating because Jerry and Dallas talks. I mean, Dak, you're going to have to start him. He's your $40 million man. But Cooper Rush what Cooper Rush has done has earned him a backup role in this league for a long time to come, and good for him. He's taken this opportunity to absolutely run with it, blown my expectations away. I remember when Dak got injured after week 1, I was the first one to say the Cowboys are dead. Bury the Cowboys. They'll be, a no-win team by the time Dak comes back. So they completely proven me wrong. And for the Washington Commanders, they are officially on. I mean, like, people need to get fired, overhaul. I love Ron Rivera, but I just think this is just kind of falling apart. I mean, they are a mess, and Carson Wentz is a disaster. Similar to my Bears, they just are an organization that can't get it right, and they can't. You need it to be a great organization to win many, many years in a row, and to have continuity and to be in the playoff realm. I mean, look at Buffalo. You need solid ownership that finds the right head coach and the right quarterback all at the right time, and they need to grow together. And Washington, like Chicago, is just one of those organizations just doesn't seem to ever have things in the right order. And right now, I mean, Jack Del Rio, someone's got to fall on the sword. I mean, they're brutal. They're a brutal watch right now, and maybe in competition for the worst team in the league. I mean, as of right now, I know they have a win, but they are just a pathetic effort. And offensively, you're so inept. I mean, Carson Wentz throwing the ball 42, 43 something times, and he has only 177 yards. I mean, it was ugly.
Very, very ugly, and just terribly inefficient. And you're not going to win any games being that.
Right now, I would say, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Panthers coming up soon, but right now, I would honestly say a year from now, I don't think that Baker Mayfield or Carson Wentz is in the league a year from now. That's how I feel right now. How badly it's gone for Wentz and how badly it's going for Baker. As of right now, if you had to make me bet, I would bet that week 4, 2023, neither of those two guys are in the league. Like, not just starting, but like honestly on a roster.
I could see that with Baker. I don't know if I buy it with Wentz because he still has physical tools that put him over the top.
As a backup, you think of maybe a team would bring him in as a backup?
Yeah, because I think Baker's personality is more volatile than Carson Wentz's. In terms of outwardly, like, Carson does the right things at the podium, right? Even though we hear stories about, certain, teammates not necessarily, buying in to rally around him. Baker, though, just creates so much issue in the media and at the podium. I mean, even this past week saying, like, we don't care if the fans boo. That's not something you really need to be saying to the fan base. Like, it's not good messaging.
Justin Fields, by the way, had a bad podium day as well.
He did have
the
one.
Stats don't matter. I mean, that's just, you can't. I mean, it's just.
That's two bad podium days because when
he's getting defensive and he doesn't know how to just say nothing. You know what I mean? Say things without saying anything. He's got to learn that skill. The Chicago media is going to hound him on it. It's going to be brutal.
They should go and try and get Mitch Trubisky to be his backup and teach him at the podium right there.
Dear God.
That'd be perfect. Hey, how about the Seahawks and the Lions, Mark? Who would did you have the over-under on 92.5 points? You didn't take the over on 92.5 points?
I did not know.
Then you missed out because they scored 93 points combined. Who would have guessed that? Geno Smith and Jared Goff lighting up the scoreboard to the tune of a 48-45 Seattle victory over the Lions. This one surprised me a lot. The way the Lions have been playing, I would have taken them over Seattle at home, especially too. At the end of the day, it was really like Rashad Penny going off and, just finding open lanes. Jared Goff did everything he could to keep this team in it, threw 4 touchdowns in the air. But Geno had a really efficient day, didn't turn the ball over. And as we mentioned, they just ran the ball super effectively. This was the type of Seattle team that I think Pete Carroll has wanted to be able to run for years. And he's finally getting to put his stamp on it. I'm not saying that's a great thing. I still think they're not a very good team. But, it's working sometimes, and it's worked here in a game where, they clashed. 2 defensive-minded head coaches, 2 ground and pound head coaches going at it, and the Seattle Seahawks got the best of them in this one.
Seattle was impressive. They have a lot of fight in them, and both teams are bad defensively. They both gave up a ton of points.
Brutal.
But the Lions, I mean, are the number one scoring offense and the number 32nd defense right now. So I mean, they are literally, if they could just get to like the 25th defense, they would be doing what I said they'd be doing, which is winning more games. I had them winning almost 8 or 9 games. And they're offensively, they're there. I mean, they had no Brown and no Swift, and they're able to score points, which is funny. It just goes to show you that was never Matt Stafford's problem in Detroit. He could always score. I mean, they always put up points. Time is a flat circle for the Detroit Lions. I just think, again, my hope is that the Detroit is able to kind of rein some of this in. There's good vibes going, and I think Jared Goff is also proving he deserves to be a starting quarterback in this league. Jared Goff right now, I think, is really, really proving that, cementing that the Lions have a lot more problems than quarterback right now. And that's good for him because they're going to have another top pick. They have some more picks. And if he can keep playing like this and balling out, putting up the numbers that kind of Stafford was putting up, there's no reason why they don't roll with Jared Goff. He's affordable. They could even sign him to an extension at the end of this year as an affordable extension. And in that division with the volatility of Aaron Rodgers, will he play? Won't he play? What's his career arc going to be? And Kirk Cousins and the mess that the Bears are in, the Lions, there's a lot to be happy about, but you got to find a way to close out that game and win that game at home.
I agree with that one for sure. Titans go on the road, get a big NFC South win, AFC
Huge.
South win, on the road at the Colts, 24-17. I don't know, man. The Colts might just not be a good football team, which is
they're not
bizarre to think, but they have not played well.
They're not. Defensively, they're not the same. The Eberflus leaving them has really affected them. And let's just be honest. I mean, Matt Ryan is old. I mean, he's older than Tom Brady old. I mean, it's washed. Yeah. And you could deal with it in Atlanta in the last couple of years because he was still putting up points and they were, he was your guy. But at this point, I mean, it's bad. I mean, he's worse than Rivers was. He's not a starting quarterback in this league anymore. It just doesn't look right. So the Indy's in some trouble, and it's bad for my predictions because I had Indy winning that division. But I thought he'd have a renaissance bounce back, kind of 1 year boost before falling off the map, and it just he fell off the map, and so everything else gets out of whack for them, and they just haven't been healthy, and their playmakers in the wrong spot. And Frank Reich the seat is heating up because that's the type of organization where it feels like you almost just need a clean house. Let's get a new GM, a new coach, a new quarterback, and say completely goodbye to the Andrew Luck era and all this chaos that's followed post Luck's retirement. That's how it's starting to feel in Indy right now.
I'd like to see Frank though get a young quarterback and mold him.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't necessarily.
It's not Frank Reich's fault who's the quarterback. I mean, that falls on Ballard. Like Ballard has built a good roster, but it's his job to also find the quarterback. And so yeah, you're right. Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe they get another year. Maybe they get the chance to draft a quarterback and develop it. We'll see if Irsay is patient and how the rest of this year plays out. Maybe Sam Ehlinger gets a chance to start at some point in time this year, just to see if there's a spark there. I will say, though, on the other side of it, for Tennessee, I mean, this is Mike Vrabel. He's a great coach. I mean, he really is a great coach. And Tannehill settling in, doing what you need to do. Tannehill is in that Kirk Cousins mold. He is not going to win you big playoff games. He can win you a lot of regular season games, though, if the talent around him is playing well and things shape out. And Derrick Henry needs to be the focal point. They need to play old school football. And the Titans right now look like they're poised to kind of get control of this division again. And it's not a good division, and none of these teams will win a playoff game in that division, no matter who wins it. One of them will host a game and probably get blown out in the wild card round. It's just kind of how it feels right now for the AFC South.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting race to watch as things unfold. But I agree. I think the Titans are going to end up winning this division, but the Jaguars are not too far behind, although they did fall to the Eagles in a very messy game, really rainy conditions.
Yeah.
Both offenses struggled mightily in this one. So honestly, my takeaway was that the Jaguars are all right. I mean, they're 2-2 now after losing 29-21. It was a one possession game they lost on the road. in a volatile or a hostile environment, bad weather conditions, against a team that is really good at running the football and plays really solid defense. It wasn't Trevor Lawrence's best day. He had 4 turnovers in this one. But Jalen Hurts didn't play particularly well either. It was very much the run game oriented type of match here in this one. But the Eagles stay undefeated, and you got to give them credit for playing well in these conditions and winning the game. And, Miles Sanders, who's not a world beater, he's not among the best running backs in the league, really stepped up for them when they needed him to have a good game. And he had over 120 yards and a couple scores as well. So, the Eagles are starting to become a team that we can say, okay, they can actually beat you a couple different ways. They have a lot of versatility here, and that's what makes them a force to be reckoned with. I had them as the 4 seed. At this point, it seems like that's going to be way too low. I don't know if they'll be the 1 seed where they're at right now by the end of the season, but they're probably going to be a top 3 seed.
Long season for the Eagles still, but everything's pointing in the right direction. And yes, finding ways to win games against an improved Jaguars team. It was such a trap game for them at home, bad weather. And they were down early 14-0, and again found a way. Nick Sirianni, I've never been more wrong on a guy. I was so anti Nick Sirianni last year. Like, who the heck is this guy? It's all Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni. Don't you think the Colts could use some of Nick Sirianni's cleverness right now? Back in that offensive staff. So kudos to the Eagles. They are right now a legit force in the NFC, and for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's so funny. They're so similar to Chicago right now, only the vibes are so different. The vibes as a Bears fan are like, oh, this is just things are not going well and my quarterback are not going well. But I have to be patient. It's the first year of a long rebuild. For Jacksonville, it's, hey, man, this is the first year of a rebuild with a new head coach and a new system, but a second-year quarterback. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. My quarterback has shown some stuff. Trevor Lawrence cannot fumble the ball that many times in the game. He's got to get stuff like that cleaned up. But again, if that's the problems he's experiencing right now, that's stuff you can clean up. Arrow pointing still up for the Jags and for Trevor Lawrence right now. Feeling good if I'm a Jags fan.
Yeah. The Jags, the arrow is pointing up. Buffalo Bills win on the road at Baltimore. That was a big win in the AFC, 23-20.
Big second half comeback.
Yeah, powerhouse battles. The Ravens take a 14-3 lead after the first quarter. And as you mentioned, 13 unanswered points for the Buffalo Bills in the second half, shutting out the Ravens in the entire second half as well. A lot of sloppy play. Lamar Jackson throws 2 picks in this one. Allen threw a pick, and Singletary, I think, had a fumble. So there was a lot of, some sloppiness in this one. But this is kind of why the Bills are kind of separating themselves amongst a lot of the other teams, is that, amidst a not dominant performance by Josh Allen, they still beat a great AFC team, that we'd expect to be in the playoffs this year, and they still pull away with the win on the road despite all of that. It just, and both quarterbacks rushed for like 70 yards in this game too. So they really were matching each other toe for toe, score for score. And I come away thinking the Ravens are just going to be doing Ravens types things where they're probably just going to be losing a lot of close games and a lot of games that they should win. And the Bills are going to just get all of the close games. If a game is close, the Bills are going to win that one because they just seem to have that capability to go over the top and get that extra push. That Miami loss seems to be an outlier for what this team is capable of doing. They can step on you in the second half for sure. And
well, historically in the last year and a half, the Bills have not won close games, and that's why the Miami loss was concerning.
That's a fair point.
So that's why the Miami loss was concerning. So to see them come back, be down big, battle back in it, and win a close game, I agree with you. Now it's like, oh crap! If Buffalo can win these games, absolutely. We knew they weren't going to go undefeated. Was the Miami loss maybe an expected loss? No, but Miami's now shown they're better than they are. So I don't write off the Ravens. I think the Ravens are figuring some stuff out. Lamar is still having a really good year. I mean, they went for it, and that's what the Ravens do. I mean, people want to hammer them a little bit, like, no, take the field goal, but that's what the Ravens do. I mean, the Ravens play that kind of football. So
I would have went for it.
You can't hate on them when they do it and they win. So you can't hate on them when they do it and they lose. That's who they are. They're an aggressive style of football. I don't take much from this game except for good for the Bills to get back on track after the loss, and for the Ravens, I'd be a little frustrated because you had a chance to show that you can beat the best of the best, and you let it slip through your fingers.
We'll rifle through this next one, the Chargers at the Texans, because LA won 34-24. To me, it didn't feel that close. But, Houston has some playmakers for sure, but the Chargers are just really solid all around. Austin Eckler finally coming to life.
Yep,
huge. Starting to, get his rhythm going into the season. If he plays the way he did this past week, look out, because the Chargers are a real force. And this was all without Keenan Allen the past couple weeks. But the Texans fall to 0-3-1. I think they've been playing a lot better than their record indicates. But nonetheless, they are in the basement of the NFL. Meanwhile, the Chargers sticking with the AFC West there, because the Broncos, the Raiders, no one's really being able to pull away. The Chiefs are the only team in that division right now that seem to be on the fast track to a division lead. But Chargers are right there with.
I'm buying stock in the Texans again. I think there's I think they're doing exactly what I predicted they would do start this year. Like, hey, if you want to show your fan base we're scrappy, there's flashes, but ultimately we're losing games. That's what they need to do right now. They have more picks than anyone else in the next 2-3 years, and high picks. I mean, 2 first rounds this year, 2 first rounds next year. Eagles have it too, which is crazy to think about. The Eagles done such a great job manipulating their picks in their draft. And so buying a lot of stock in them. They seem to have a little bit more of an identity this year, and they're better coached. Let's just be honest. I think Lovey has got them at least as a capable football team. They're a solid organization. He's gotten control of that organization a little bit, and credit to Lovey Smith for doing that. For the Chargers, again, it just feels good to check off a win that you checked off at the beginning of the season. Move on to the next one. You've had a little bit of a rough start. Injuries. You can't do anything about Bosa. You can't do anything about Slater right now. Win the ones you can win. Hopefully you get some help and get some health by the crucial points of the season, and you can find a way to sneak into the playoffs. And that's what you got to be thinking if you're a Chargers fan right now.
The Cardinals always seem like a team that we just can't quite figure out and don't really know what to make of them.
The head coach and the quarterback hate each other. I think it's pretty obvious.
That is, there is some strife happening there between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, but the Cardinals did pull out the win on the road at the Panthers, 26-16, in a game that the Panthers they had control of this.
Yeah, the Panthers had to have it.
They were in control of the first half. They led 10-3, and they just blew it. They could not get Baker Mayfield, by the way, 9 batted passes at the line of scrimmage. It's becoming a legitimate issue. It had been in years past. It is now. Okay, this is just what he does. Like,
defense, put your hands up. Like, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, and he says it's a height thing. I don't see Drew Brees. I don't see Russell Wilson getting those types of balls batted as consistently as he has. That is a problem. And the Panthers have a real problem, to the point where Matt Rule is being asked if Sam Darnold is going to overtake the starting role at some point. Now, he won't commit to it, and he says Sam's not ready in terms of his injury and all of that, but Sam's closer than people think, and there's certainly no reason for them to just give Baker the job the entire rest of the year. If he's playing super bad, they're not tied to him. So
Baker's clock is ticking. He's got as much time as it takes for Darnold to get healthy. When Darnold is healthy and can fully play football, I think you will see Darnold back in and starting for the Panthers. Baker's been that bad. This was an ultimate gut check game. I mean, if the Panthers wanted to show they had any life for the rest of the season at home against a Cardinals team that's kind of reeling, that's not, their identity is shaken, they're missing their best player in Hopkins, this was a chance to make a statement, get a win. And for the Cardinals, absolutely, if they were to lose this game on the road against an inferior team, inferior quarterback, it would have been devastating for them. So for the Cardinals, it feels good to get back to 500. Just, okay, take a breath. Cardinals do have some real issues, though, but I think a lot of that will get solved when they get their best player back after week 6. So can the Cardinals stay around 500? If they can, I would feel good if I'm a Cardinals fan. If I'm 3-3 and now I get Hopkins back, let's go. No one's running away with the West right now. In the NFC, there's a bunch of wild card spots that are going to be open. So can you hang around, be 3-3, get Hopkins back, and then start playing the brand of football you want to play?
Yeah. I'm gonna stay adamant that they should have the Panthers should have just went after Jimmy G this past offseason. I think we'd be looking at a much different situation for Matt Rule and company there.
Yeah, they could absolutely. I believe that because the rest of the team has shown some flashes, but Baker has been a massive disappointment right now.
All right, I know we're running out of time, Mark. Let's lightning round the final 4 games here. Packers beating the Patriots 27-24. Aaron Rodgers 2 touchdowns, 21 of 35 in this one. Ground game was looking good too with Aaron Jones over 100 yards.
Packers have some issues. I mean, you've got to be able to cover at home. You're favored by 9.5
against the third string quarterback in Bailey Zappi.
It's concerning. And honestly, offensively, I think there's still some issues. But luckily, again, they're in a division that's not strong, so they can take their time, work through some things, and Aaron Rodgers will always beat up on the Bears and Lions to get himself some easy wins. For the Patriots, I mean, Zappi had a spark. That's the best the offense has looked. So we'll see. Maybe this gives them time to let Mac Jones really heal, or maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, they probably win that game if Mac Jones plays the whole game, I think.
Probably.
But we don't know for sure. Raiders beat the Broncos. Huge win for Las Vegas. They needed this one so bad. First win of the season, 32-23. Broncos' offensive issues still seem to be intact, regardless of whether that Russell Wilson looked better. This offense still seems out of sync. I don't know about you.
Yeah, and now they lost their star running back to an ACL rest of the year.
Brutal.
So the Broncos.
So now bring in the guy that fumbles every 5 touches.
I know, Melvin Gordon. And the Broncos are they are a well-built ship that seems like there's something wrong with the engine, and it's like, like you buy a car and they say it's a lemon. It looks great. Everything feels like it should function well, but there's just something wrong with it. I don't know what exactly that is, but offensively there's not a lot of creativity. And Russ, to be honest, he was brought in and paid a lot of money to be a superstar, and superstars have to step up and find ways to win games. A good win in the division for the Raiders. Maybe this gets some momentum for them going, and they claw their way back to 500 and at least find a way to make the rest of the season kind of interesting for them after the 0-3 start. I wouldn't say they are dead now, especially because the Broncos look very beatable. Chargers are very injured, so can they steal some wins in division that what otherwise we would have counted as losses earlier in the year? So we'll see. Both teams reeling right now.
Hackett has been really bad, but Russ definitely needs to shoulder some of the blame.
Yeah,
early going. Chiefs on the road at the Buccaneers. Sunday Night Football, 41-31 win. Chiefs definitely seem to be in control a lot of this game in terms of offensively, they never seemed like they could be stopped. But Tom Brady and company looked good too. The Bucs are getting healthy now, and we may be seeing a different Tampa team in the coming weeks here. But nonetheless, the Chiefs, hang on for the 10-point victory, and Mahomes gonna do Mahomes things, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, Mahomes. It's one of those things where it's stupid, and we do it too much in the media. It is silly for us to debate who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now. It's is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
we both have felt that. Josh Allen is the only one I would put in the category of being close, because Josh Allen physically is like nothing we've seen in recent years, and the way he can play the position. But Patrick is beyond special. And when Patrick has a chip on his shoulder and he gets these kind of grudges, it's almost like Steph Curry, it reminds you times, where it's like there are certain games that feel like they mean more to Patrick Mahomes. And playing the Bucs in Tampa against Brady, he came out, he was the most prepared, best player on the field by far, and it showed. The Bucs, I'm not panicking yet on the Bucs because they're going to get healthy. They're going to get guys back. Things will glue, and they have a really weak division and all the time in the world to get right. When you have Tom Brady on your squad right now, it's all about just getting into the playoffs and rolling. Well, the Bucs won the Super Bowl 2 years ago as a wild card team. So for them, it's all about just making the playoffs, and letting the chips fall. But I will be honest, Dan, I'll talk about it here during the Super Bowl playing. The divorce rumors, I think they could actually really affect Brady and the Bucs. I'll just say, I think it's a legitimate concern if I'm a Bucs
It's a real
fan.
thing. I mean, they've been together for such a long time. I mean, it is a real thing. Meanwhile, I think the Chiefs are the best team in the league, and I think the Buffalo Bills are a close second. And I think the Bucs are going to be fine down the road. Now, will it affect them in the playoffs? Maybe so. But I think they're getting healthy, and I think we're going to see a different look Bucs going into the middle of the season. Finally, Monday Night Football, 49ers trounced the Rams 24-9, but it was the Rams just had no offensive rhythm at all. Their biggest problem, in my view, they can't run the football worth a lick.
It's weird. I mean, the Rams just one of those teams. Andrew Whitworth and losing Whitworth and Von Miller seems to have affected them greatly. And Allen Robinson has so far been a bust of a signing.
Very bizarre.
And I don't know if that's because of injuries. I mean, he wasn't the same when he came back with the Bears last year from injury. And or is it just scheming? I don't know what it is exactly, but they're offensively just inept right now. But also, I don't want to overreact. They beat the Niners last year at home. This was on the road. McVay has struggled in his career with Shanahan, especially in San Francisco. So I don't want to over panic, but right now the Rams do seem like a team that has a lot of stars, then not a lot of cohesiveness and a lot of solid game planning as far as you're absolutely right. We're going to exploit this weakness and beat it. That's what the Niners did to them in running the ball, and Deebo Samuel just being an absolute monster. And right now, this Niners team, their arrow, if this is the way they can play the rest of the season, they certainly could be in that Super Bowl talk again.
Both teams now 2-2. Honestly, I think that elbow is really hurting Matt Stafford. I would not be surprised if he ends up having surgery.
He had
the season ends.
I mean, he had surgery in the offseason this year, so maybe again, you're right.
It just doesn't seem right. It seems like something's wrong. So I don't know for sure, obviously, but that's my inkling. All right, I know we're kind of running out of time. Do you want to do your Super Bowl play, or do you want to just save it for next week, or what?
Yeah, no, we'll do it really quickly. As you know, if you follow us, the Super Bowl plane is my version of the power rankings. First class means I think you can win the Super Bowl. Business class means I think you can play in the championship games. It would not shock me if you were in the championship games. And then economy class is teams that feel like playoff teams, but they are not legitimate threats to be in the Super Bowl. So let's start with the economy class. I have a couple teams in here: Dallas, Miami, Tennessee, Chargers, Packers, Vikings. These are teams right now that feel like they absolutely could be in the playoffs, but I do not trust them right now at all in the playoffs to do anything beyond making it to the playoffs. The Packers, offensively, the struggles are there. Defensively, they're playing really solid, but offensively right now, Aaron doesn't trust any of his receivers, and he has got a lot of proving to do over the season to build that trust to have a chance. They could certainly move up. Vikings, I will never move them out of economy class, even if they're 15-1, it's 16-1. I do not trust them to win in the postseason because of Kirk. Tennessee, again, they feel similar to the Vikings. They have a chance to win their division, but I don't see them doing much beyond it. Dallas, same thing. Miami, they feel like a wild card team that could very easily get bounced depending on the way their season goes. I think Miami is benefiting right now from warm weather, September football. Let's see how they handle November, December football. And the Chargers right now are too beat up to be anywhere but this. But Justin Herbert alone gets them the economy class. Business class, I mean, these are teams I feel like they could win a playoff game or two. They could end up in the championship game. Ravens, Bengals, Niners, Rams, Bucks. I don't think I'd explain much of it. I think all of these teams have the upside, the playoff experience, the quarterbacks, and the coaching staffs to be in the championship games. But right now, I don't see any of them having the it factor needed to make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. You got to be able to win the Super Bowl, in my opinion, to be in first class. And there's only 3 teams right now that I feel confident saying I think they could win the Super Bowl. Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philadelphia. I'll put Philly in there right now. I think they've earned me saying that because I just think they are explosive. They have a lot of just really good players, and they're playing really good, and their coaching staff is clever. And defensively, I think in order to be an NFC team in first class, you would have to prove to me that, one, you could score with Buffalo and Kansas City. I think Philly could. And two, I think they're just good enough on defense to make a play. They could make a play and get a strip sack fumble against Mahomes or Allen, and all of a sudden they win a Super Bowl. So that's where in right now, the NFC, you have to prove to me that you could score with Chiefs and Bills. I think the Eagles can. They're the only ones I think right now who can. And I think they're the only ones defensively that I feel comfortable enough saying they could make the play that they would need to do. Buffalo and Kansas City, there's no need to explain. They could rout Philly or the Bucs or the Rams in the Super Bowl. I believe that. But I think Philly's the only one that could give both of them trouble enough. Make sense?
It makes sense. I think Tampa might be in that conversation in a couple weeks, but I get the way they played so far. It's too tough to call right now. So I agree with a lot.
If Tampa would have held Kansas City to 30 points and made it a little bit more competitive, I would have said, all right, their defense can keep them in the game. But they got just blown up.
They did give up a lot of points
at home.
Yeah. Well, we just boarded on the Super Bowl plane, so it has not taken off yet. But we'll be getting updates.
We leave New York next week on our way to Philadelphia.
Excellent. Really excited for that. It's not a round trip either. So this is a one-way, folks.
Arizona, on the way to Arizona.
It's going to take several weeks.
But
we'll get there. All right, that has been week 4 recap of the Football Lounge here with Mark and Dan. Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hessman, at Dan Vasco, at FB Lounge Pod. Until next week, we'll see you soon, everyone.